Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Noah Rothman is senior writer for National Review. Noah, are you aware of any major media outlet that has done a serious, thorough, transparent, and ongoing classification of the acts of political violence that have occurred in the United States since the election of Donald Trump in 2016?
At least my own account of that for Commentary Magazine in February of 2025, which I'm developing into a book that is going to come out in May. Beyond that,
Well,
The Atlantic took a stab at it. I'm sorry?
George Packer's piece. It's an absurd piece. Are you referring to that
Yeah,
one?
yes, I
Right.
am.
What?
But in part because it maintains the illusion that a lot of the left-wing violence that we've experienced over the last decade can't be categorized as left-wing violence because it more fits into criminal violence, it more fits into public disorder, rioting, and then there's something that was published for the Department of Homeland Security by the Department of Homeland Security for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in 2021, in which the researchers quite bravely describe the degree to which scholarship in this area is stigmatized, is that there's
Interesting.
category errors that are enforced and deliberately not corrected, that those who engage in research into AVEs, which is the term of art the FBI uses for left-wing violent extremists, anarchist extremists, that's the sort of thing that is sort of frowned upon in the industry. It's not necessarily a conspiracy, but it is a broad objection to the notion that left-wing political violence should be described as left-wing political violence. It's one of the things I
No,
set out
what
to
I would
correct.
like to do, I'm going to do it with Senator Cotton later as well, is run through incidents and have you say left wing violence, right wing violence, violence of crazy people, or other. The
Well, some don't
assassination
fit
of Charlie.
categories. Some are hard to categorize, and one of the things that the
I
FBI
know,
does
let's
note.
find them. There's apathetic theology is the definition of God by the characteristics he does not have. So this is apathetic criminology. Uh,
Mhm.
we'll find out what doesn't fit. Assassination of Charlie, left wing violence.
Yeah, undoubtedly left-wing violence. Left-wing
All
violence
right.
that was inspired by left-wing propaganda and the individuals who and the online environments in which these people descend into, where only one of the many pathologies is violent left-wing extremism. There are so many more that are on display, but yes, clearly.
Both assassination attempts on President Trump.
The first one is difficult to categorize because Mr. Crooks did not leave behind a digital footprint. So, according to Selena Zito, who did the definitive book on the Butler assassination, it seemed more likely to her that he wanted historical renown, that he wanted his name to ring out. But we don't know a lot about the ideology to which he subscribed. We do know that Ruth, the gentleman who took the second shot at Donald Trump, certainly had a variety of ideological proclivities, not all of them could be easily categorized, but he was very hostile towards the president's foreign policy record, called him a dictator, and was animated by opposition to Donald Trump. So I think you could fairly classify that as left-wing violence.
Attempt on Justice Kavanaugh.
Clearly left-wing violence. Obviously left-wing
Uh,
violence. The, yeah,
attempt to kill the GOP congressional softball practice members.
left-wing violence. Yes, that individual was radicalized by the infotainment sphere, and was a major supporter of Bernie Sanders and a dedicated viewer of Rachel Maddow. It's hard to say otherwise.
Murderous attacks on the religious schools in Minneapolis and Nashville.
Yeah, so these have a political valence, I would say. Quite a lot of these attacks are committed by individuals who are deeply disturbed and deranged. They are radicalized by online elements that you could fairly say subscribe to left wing ideologies. The executors of that violence are a little bit more disturbed. But once again, the FBI describes this as salad bar terrorism. It's actually a term of art that describes the addled mind's attraction to a variety of seemingly contradictory ideological prescriptions that nevertheless fit within the rubric of left-wing violence, in part because the
Do we
people
know
who
the
observe them
genesis of
make
that?
them fit there.
That's a stupid term. I'm just going to say salad. That's just stupid. Do we know the genesis of that? Is that some PhD somewhere in some state university that's never been heard of before?
I don't know the provenance of that phrase, but it seems
Do you
to me
think
to be
that's a
rather
stupid
apt.
phrase?
I don't know, the addled mind, the violent mind is
No,
an
the
addled
salad
mind.
bar. The
Uh,
salad bar
yeah,
stuff.
I understand the critique of it. I find it rather helpful to describe what a manic mind is attracted to, which is extremism in many, many forms. And the executors of violence are often quite deranged. That doesn't mean that they're not left wing. And certainly one of the
That,
problems that I try to address here is that the spectatorship, the cheering section, the peanut gallery, which is undeniably attracted to left wing ideas, encourages this sort of thing. And that is what is spinning out of control.
yeah, we've had 3 attacks on ICE facilities, including yesterday's, in 3 months. Do you know enough to categorize those?
The most recent one, I would say, I'm inclined to say left-wing terrorism, but it just happened, and I don't know enough about the perpetrator to say. The two that preceded it most certainly were the individual who was radicalized, who attacked a ICE office, on July 7th, I believe, was attracted to ideology that was promoted by video games and anti-capitalist themes in video games. The attack on July 4th on a CBP facility was small cell terrorism. That was not just an individual that was radicalized. This is a group of 10 individuals who executed a sophisticated attack utilizing multiple angles and using explosive devices to lure out their targets. And the literature they left behind is undeniably radical and left wing.
All right. The ABC studio in Sacramento that was fired into by a left-wing nut.
So, according to prosecutors, one of the things that animated him was the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel. And what we heard over the course of the week prior to this attack was that, according to, for example, Senator Chris Murphy, the president had set out to eliminate, use that word, eliminate his critics in media. There's no sequence of events that in which that holds up. The notion here that was bandied about by Democrats is that the president reached out and had his critic canceled. And then all of a sudden, 3 days later, he's back on the air. So what happened? Did the president just stop wanting to silence his critics? Did the FCC stop implying that it would impose compliance costs on media if they didn't shape up? No. It's just that the sequence of events that the Democrats imagined didn't occur. And yet, it had the consequence of radicalizing an individual who went out and could have killed people. He's going to spend a lot of years in jail as a result. But there's been no soul searching over any of this.
How about the
I think
Fox
you probably have to
News
say this guy was
van
left-wing.
attempted bombing? There was a Fox News van that had a bomb placed under it on September 12th. Do we know enough?
Yeah. That one I don't know enough about. I don't know if those individuals were left-wing, right-wing, whether they were jihadists, who, by the way, claim the largest body count in this country. Any list of domestic terrorism acts that doesn't outright say jihadist Islamic fundamentalism has claimed the most lives in this country.
I put that in the Islamist bucket. Yeah, I put the Islamist bucket differently. How about the country club murder, about which I am not certain?
Yeah, I'm not certain about that either. The book that I set out to write is not a compendium of left-wing attacks. It is designed to illustrate the phenomenon broadly.
Can I keep you during the break, because I want to go through the final 5 I've got here. Don't go anywhere. Noah Rothman is my guest. We'll post it over at YouTube. I'm just trying to get people thinking about the way Noah does in Clockwork Blue, the piece for commentary. What's going on here? And where's it coming from? Because it's spiraling, and it's very, very bad for the country. I'll be right back. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I've got 4 more to ask your reactions to, Noah. The murder of the Hartmans. I've heard competing accounts of this. What do you think? The Minnesota former speaker and her husband and the other legislators who were threatened but not murdered.
Well, so the individual was described as conservative by his friends and had a list of Democrats that he set out to attack and abortion activists and providers, which would point to right-wing lunacy. And yet, it seems more likely that the lunacy was far more pronounced than the conservatism. The individual had a bunch of rambling letters to the FBI. He delivered a jailhouse interview that was incomprehensible. He seems to have thought that he was a commando trained off the books by the U.S. military and was operating under the direction of Governor Walz to murder his Democratic opponents so that Amy Klobuchar could succeed somehow. He's a crazy person. More to the point, however.
Sure. Go ahead.
Just more to the point is that during that weekend, where there was saturation coverage of that assassination attempt, and duly so, there was a ton of violence at the No Kings rallies, none of which was covered. There was a riot in Los Angeles, there was a riot in Oakland, there was a riot in Portland, and nobody covered it or talked about it, in part because of the right-wing violence narrative, which has subsequently, I think, been at least muddled, if not fallen apart entirely.
All right, next, I'm going to stipulate January 6th and the Whitmer kidnap plot are right-wing violence. Any disagreement
Oh,
from
yeah.
you?
I do not
All right.
disagree with that. And there's far more to it. There's more right wing violence than we should be comfortable with. That doesn't mean
Oh,
that that
but
is the foremost threat that we're dealing with right now.
and then finally, I don't know what to do with the riots following George Floyd. I don't think they're political.
I do. I certainly do. If you were
Tell
to
me why.
survey what the well, the objectives, for example, not of, let's just take the rioters for themselves, who devoted themselves to tearing down the symbols of the United States of America and its history, not just the Confederate generals that they duly reviled, but Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, TR, etc. They attacked the courthouses, federal symbols of federal authority. They were attacking political targets because they had political motives. And those political motives were explicated by the people in mainstream media and academia who sought to harness this violence in order to direct it towards political ends that they thought they could
All right.
achieve through it. They wanted
Exit
revolutionary
question,
change.
as Rich Lowry likes to say, 5 choices. Are all the examples we've gone through overwhelmingly left-wing, mostly left-wing, evenly divided, mostly right-wing, overwhelmingly right-wing?
Somewhere between mostly and I forget what the fourth one is, but somewhere between 5 and 4. Mostly left wing.
Okay, overwhelmingly and mostly left-wing.
Overwhelmingly and
That's
mostly,
what I
I'm
think
gonna-
too. I'm going to run with the same scorecard with Senator Cotton. We'll see what he comes up with. Noah C. Rothman, thank you. I'm looking forward to this book. Get back to work. Good to talk
I'll
to you.
talk to you about it.